hopefully we're live a couple of minutes early so we can just get ourselves into practice. So I'll move back. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm just waiting for the production assistant to tell me whether he can hear me. I can't get the staff. So, as you can see, the dogs are here, which is probably not ideal. So, dogs, out you go. In your beds, please. Out. Out. Thank you. You can go in there. Right. You can't hear anything at all. Can anyone hear anything? No? Are you following the live feed? I can't help you. Okay, you'll have to find it, it's fine. Okay. You've got to find the feed. No, I don't want you on there. Come on. In your bed. In your bed. In your bed. Go on. In your bed. Okay. So, good evening, everyone. I'm not sure if who's live with us this evening. I'm just checking in and making sure we're okay. So, just changing the lighting a little bit. That's better. Okay, so this evening we're starting a tiny bit early so we can finish a tiny bit early and make sure that we are able to get all of our practice in. So today's focus is going to be on our spines because we're spending a lot of time sitting down, potentially, maybe a bit more than we normally do, maybe not moving around as much. And we're also possibly carrying our tension, so carrying our tension in the neck or shoulders and possibly in the lower back and the sort of belly area. So we're just going to look at seeing if we can free that off tonight, release it off and make sure that we're sort of fully limber for the rest of the week. I'll be finishing at about 5 to 8 so that we can join in the NHS clap for our carers movement at 8 o'clock. And we're also going to be back online tomorrow at 12 midday. So hopefully you can join us then. So I'm just going to make sure that the heating doesn't come on, so because that sometimes interferes with the mic. So we're just going to bring ourselves into practice. We're going to lie flat on the mat. If lying flat isn't comfortable for you, then obviously you can bend your knees and make sure that you're comfortable. Pippi is going to join us for a moment, clearly. So then we're going to lie ourselves down, get yourselves very comfortable, stretch your legs out if that's comfortable for you, and open up the arms. Lift the head lightly and stretch through the top of the head. Lift each arm and stretch and lengthen and just settle. Take a moment here. I'm just going to bring our focus to our breathing. So our breath is really important for controlling levels of anxiety and panic. We might be feeling a little bit anxiety ridden at the moment, so we're going to just breathe into the belly. Bring that breath quite quickly up to the top of the lungs. And then breathe out slowly, so dropping the belly in and pushing the breath out to the full length. Breathing in quite quickly and then breathing out. So settling here for a moment. If you want to bend both feet, place them on the floor, and we're going to bring one leg up. So we're going to bring one leg up. You can use a belt if you need to, or hold behind the knee. You can stretch this leg up. Okay, if you want to, you can catch the toe, if you know you can catch the toe, and stretch the leg away and lengthen the leg up. Relax yourself down, stretch out through the back of the leg. Feel free to keep a bit of softness in the knee if you need to stretch away. Breathing here. Make sure you're level through the pelvis and the head and neck and the back are nice and long. Release that off, hug that knee into the chest. This leg can either be bent or straight, up to you. And just hug that knee in and release the hip. Release to the other side. So again, you can stretch up, catch behind the knee, the calf, the ankle, or if you're flexible enough, you can get to the toes. Settle yourself down, stretch the other leg away. So I've got a dog in the way. And stretch up and lengthen. Stretching out through the back of the leg. Keep a softness in this knee. You don't want to get to 100% stretch here. You want to get to a nice stretch that's pleasant. Breathing here, leveling up the pelvis. Focusing back on the breath. And then bending that away, hugging that in, either with that straight leg along the mat or with the bent leg. And just breathing in and stretching away. Placing the foot back on the floor and then hugging both knees into the chest. Carefully place both feet together, both knees together. Stretch the arms wide and place the palms down. Lift the head again and lengthen through the top of the head. And then carefully, so we're going to tuck the bandhas in now to help support the lower back. So that's pulling in your pelvic floor, Mula Bandha, and tucking in your tummy, Uddiyana Bandha. So we're just carefully going to engage those muscles as we then lower carefully over. Don't feel you have to go all the way to the floor. Try and keep the opposite shoulder nicely in touch with the floor and then turn the head away. If you're very comfortable and flexible with this stretch, then obviously you can straighten the leg across and increase the stretch. Breathing here and really focus the breath into the floating ribs at the bottom of the rib cage on the left hand side. Focusing on the out breath particularly. Taking a deep breath in, bring the knees, legs back together if you had a leg out. Tuck the belly in, bring the head back up and then lift the knees together. Hug the knees into the chest again in the middle if you need to, or continue over then to the other side. So tucking in the bandhas again and breathing out, lowering down, stretching away, lengthening and making sure that right shoulder blade is in touch with the mat and breathing here. If you're down quite close to the floor, you may want to increase the stretch and stretch that leg away. Keep breathing here, focusing on the floating ribs on this side of the body. Keep breathing. Bring that leg back in, turn the head back to center, bring the legs back up with the aid of the bandhas and hug the knees in. So carefully does it then. We're going to come up into a down dog now, a very soft down dog. So you can either roll over and bring yourself up to a down dog. The safest way would be to roll over onto your knees to save your back. So roll over onto your side, onto your knees, and carefully bring yourself up, avoiding any dogs that might be in the way. So carefully then, bring your hands into position, and we're just going to bring them up towards the front of the mat. Fan open your dog paws really wide, so star the hands, get all four corners of the hands, all the joints, all the areas of the fingers. Roll the shoulders round a few times, and you can feel how much range of movement you've got in this shoulder girdle. A really sort of big range of movement. So sliding it round, you can reverse it and shrug it the other way, slightly harder, shrugging it forwards. And then carefully draw those shoulders back and down, so you can feel there's sort of a slight compression down towards the bottom of the shoulder blades. Tuck the toes under and lightly push yourself up into a down dog. High heels, soft knees, just focus on lengthening out and away from the hands, going out the back door. Got lots of dust on the mat. Stretching away, lengthening. If you're very comfortable, then feel free, then you can start to lengthen the legs. And this isn't about locking out the knees, this is about sucking the energy up the legs into the bandhas, so that eventually the legs straighten but don't lock, and the heels drop neatly to the floor. Take a deep breath in, look up, and just move the weight forward a little bit, and move it back. You can soften the knees if you want to do that, move the weight forward, keep the shoulders moving away from the ears, settling here. And then when you're ready, you're going to take a deep breath in and bring this right leg out. It's up to you how high you go. You're carefully dropping weight into the left heel here, but knee soft,
and the heel can stay high if that's easier for balance. Sucking in the bandhas and stretch the leg away. Up to you if you want to go higher and lift it high and stretch away. Your call. And hold here. Then carefully lower that leg down. Doesn't matter how high it went, as long as it was long. Roll the shoulders back and away. Drop the weight into the right leg and stretch away with the left leg. Again, going higher if you prefer, and stretching up, up and away. Lengthening here, focusing on length. Carefully does it. And breathing in, lowering that leg down, settling here. So if you need to rest out at any time, feel free. We're looking carefully at working here. If we're feeling under the weather, we should really think about having a more restful set of poses, or maybe not even practicing at all. So just be honest with yourself how you're feeling now, 5 minutes in to practice, and decide whether you want to take things to the sort of the right level for you, or whether it's best to rest out a little bit more. So we're going to take that again. It's up to you whether you want to take a leg lift and with an opposite arm lift as well. So entirely up to you. You can keep it nice and low. You could just focus maybe on lifting one hand at a time or one leg at a time if you're very comfortable. Keep dropping the hip towards the floor as you lengthen the hand away. Keep breathing here. Only hold as long as is comfortable, and then settle that leg down, bend the knees to release the back a little bit and settle. Lift onto the other side, stretching up, up and away, pushing in and then lengthening. I always find it harder on this side. Keep breathing and lower down carefully. And when you're ready, you can hop, skip, or just walk yourself forward to your hands. Feet wider if you want to release the lower back a little bit more, release the hamstrings. Feet together if you know you're quite happy with these poses. And then carefully does it. We're going to bring ourselves up to the front of the mat, to Samastihiti. So, good evening everyone. Now we're upright. Hopefully you're feeling good. Make sure you're taking the time to actually breathe. Think about the breath, the full length of the breath, particularly focusing on the out breath. That's really going to help sort of find that equilibrium in the body, maybe when things, everything's a little bit topsy-turvy at the moment, a bit unpredictable. So keep breathing. Keep listening to the body. So we're going to take some sun salutations now, not too many, not too quickly. Okay, so again, if you need to rest out at any point, then please do. So find your Samastihiti, open up the toes, push the four corners of the feet to the floor, draw the energy up the legs, bandhas engage, stretch up through the top of the head. We've got the marionette string attached to the top of the head, and carefully roll the shoulders forward, back and down. And you're just starting to grow the chest. Sorry about that, hitting the mic. Opening up the chest and dropping the hands. Settling here, then take a deep breath in, sweep the arms up. Optional look up here to grow the pose at the front of the body. Soften the knees, breathe out, fold. Breathe in, extend, stretch away. Breathe out, fold if you're folding. Place, stride right, stride left to your chaturanga and your up dog, or knees down, and carefully roll the shoulders, kick the heels of the hands into the floor as you lower yourself down. Lengthen through the front of the body. Don't think about height, just think about length, and push the feet into the floor. Keep breathing here, bandhas working. Breathing out. Tuck the toes under, push through your knees if you need to, via a little swan stretch if that helps to release the back, and then carefully bring yourself back up into a down dog. Settle for a moment, reacquaint yourself at the front end, roll the shoulders, push and lift. Try not to hang out of the shoulder joints, try not to force backwards through the knees. Lovely. Take a deep breath in, look up. Going to pick the left leg up, stride forward. Standing forward at the front again, stretching forward, parallel to the floor. Stay here if this is you, or breathe out, folding down. Breathe in, soften the knees, push the floor away, float yourself all the way back up, stretch up and lengthen if that's you, and breathe out. That's round one. Number two, deep breath in, stretch up, lengthen, soften the knees, breathe out, fold, either to parallel or to the floor. Breathe in, extend, breathe out, fold, place, stride left, stride right, to knees to floor, or to your chaturanga, to your up dog. Depending on what level you are, you can bring the knees in or not. Take a deep breath in, curl back via your knees in a swan stretch, or up to your down dog. Dog right on cue. Take a deep breath in, stretching and lengthening. Find your dog, widen the collarbones and see if you can scoop your angel wings round. So you're opening up those big pits towards the floor. Take a deep breath in, look up, stride right, stride left, extend, staying here, or breathing out, folding. Breathe in, soften the knees, push the floor away very deliberately as you float up, all the way up, stretching up, and breathing out. Lovely. Let's take a variation on B then before we move on. So it's up to you. You can have a little sofa cushion or a pillow or something between your knees if you want to open up to more sort of pelvic distance, if you prefer, or the more sort of usual pose that we tend to do is bringing the knees and the feet together. So activate the arches of the feet so you're almost gripping the floor, push the floor away, take a deep breath in, stretch up, and then breathe out, sit down. So you draw the shoulder blades down the back and sit down on that high, medium or low chair. So if I spin sideways, you can see how we're getting the shape here. So keep drawing the shoulder blades down, sitting down, pushing through the feet, activating the feet. If it's too much on the lower back, you can bring the hands into Namaste, which just takes a little bit of weight out of the pose. Option here to twist. So you can take the left hand to the right knee, roll the right shoulder open and place the hand on the lower back and keep the back nice and long, sucking the bandhas in here, particularly pelvic floor. Lovely. You can take that deeper if you prefer, so you can hook yourself round, press the hands together, lengthen and lift. Your call. If you want to go lower, you know you can go lower, carry on. Keep breathing. Keep those bandhas working. And then carefully release it off. Keep the back nice and long when you exit any of these twists. So we'll take it on the other side. Bring yourself back up to Samastiti. Deep breath in, sweep up. Draw the shoulders down the back. I tend to star the hands. Push the feet into the floor, suck the energy up into the arches, up the legs, into the bandhas as you settle down. Sitting down, draw the hands in if this is too much on the lower back and there's a little curl under of the tail, and then carefully right hand to left knee, roll the left shoulder open onto the lower back and twist. Keep the back nice and long as you do this. If that's easy, then you can bring the elbow across, place the hands together, press and lengthen and lift, sucking the energy up the bandhas, going deeper if that's you. Keep breathing. Bandhas working here. Keep those knees nicely leveled. I forgot to say about the knee police on the other side. Regulars will know what I will usually say. Keep breathing. And then keep breathing as you exit. Breathing out. Keep the back nice and long. Bring yourself back up. Excellent. Settling yourself then. Keep breathing here. So, just take a moment to check in with yourself. Done quite a lot of movement there already, so just check in with yourself, check in with your breathing, make sure you're okay. So carefully does it then, we're going to take a forward fold. Now this is quite strong on the shoulders, it's quite a nice shoulder opener and a neck opener and a back opener. So it's up to you. You can have the hands really wide, you can hold a belt or a big long scarf or anything that's quite long really, and just have that out behind you. If you're very keen on this pose, then obviously you can clasp the hands in an open clasp or a closed clasp. Obviously shoulder issues, neck issues, just be careful with this one and work intelligently. So going into the forward fold, up to you whether you have the feet quite wide or a little bit narrower. You do need a bit of stability in this one, so you can't really have the feet completely together, but see how you go. So we're going to, if you're clasping, great, or we're just going to roll the shoulders open, grow the space of the collarbones, and you can open the hands wide out to the back, or then bring them round into the clasp. Again, take another shimmy if you need to. Drop the hands down a little bit and stretch up through the heart. Heart pops up to the ceiling. Soften the knees, breathe in,
lengthen and then tilt forward as you kick the tail out behind you. I'm pushing the floor away really strongly here to take the energy up into the bandhas, and breathe out, keep lengthening. At some point you need to tuck the chin in to save the neck, and then potentially you might get quite far over and get the arms over quite a long way. So it's up to you really. You can control this pose. Stay down for a few breaths, keep breathing. It's quite hard to talk and fold, I've discovered. So keep breathing, keep lengthening. As you know, at some point as you get past 12 o'clock, the gravity takes over and we start to feel gravity having an action on the shoulder blade. So carefully does it then, make sure it's okay for you. How to get out of this? Then follow the clasp back up. Feel free to soften those knees, dip the tail, drop those clasps up and then back and then down, and lift yourself all the way back up. Release the arms, roll the shoulders forward and back. If you need to, you can shake the arms out as well and give the wrists a little bit of a stretch, pushing the fingers back and then pulling the fingers back and just opening up the wrists. I'll get a bit closer so you can see that. Pulling the fingers, pushing the fingers, and the same on the other side, pushing and then pulling. There we go, to release the wrists off. Okay. So then, we've done very nicely here. We're going to basically see if we can take some of our hip openers now. So again, those of you who are expecting or have recently had a baby or have got any hip or sacroiliac joint or lower back issues, just be careful with these. Maybe make sure that your stance is a little bit narrower, just to make sure you don't aggravate any conditions. So carefully does it then. We're going to take a deep breath in. I'm going to stride the right leg back across the mat. So I'm going to turn sideways. Excuse me, Pip. Okay. So then, I'm going to go into our warrior. So lining up the heel of the front foot with the chalked foot at the back, losing the ability to speak. Knees over the ankle at the front and nicely balanced. So you're still very balanced over the centre, over the pelvis here. And you feel the pelvis opening like a book. Roll the inner thighs out to increase that if you like it. And drop the shoulders down the back. Bring the hands up. Palms first sometimes helps. And then stretch the arms away and keep those shoulder blades going down. They tend to sort of try and rise up. So roll them open and drop away, lengthening. And I'm pushing the floor away, taking that energy up into the bandhas and then lengthening up and out against that energy and stretching away. Somebody's pulling my arms as well. They're just sort of stretching wide. Keep breathing here. We're going to go down to the bind, so it's up to you. You can either go into the Utthita Pasvakonasana, resting on the thigh and forming that lovely line from fingers all the way down to little toe. Make sure you push the little toe in. If you want to go further, you can go down to the floor, resting in, bracing against that leg, and then you know you can go further, then drop yourself down. We've opened the hips a little bit, that was my shoulder, and stretching away here. Rolling that top shoulder open and rolling the inner thighs out. Keep breathing here. That's lovely. Carefully does it then. Wherever you are at, we're going to carefully move ourselves round to an Anjaneyasana lunge. So we're going to bring our hands to the floor, spin around. You can drop this back knee down if you prefer to take the effort out of it. Feel free to pop something underneath this knee. This floor is quite sort of bendy and vaguely sprung, so it's not too bad in here. But if you're on a hard floor, you might want to pad up and protect that knee. Carefully does it. So carefully then we're going to bring ourselves into that lunge, either with a low knee or a high knee. Concentrate on drawing the shoulders back and down, lengthening through the top of the head and creating that stretch in the front of the thigh into the hip flexor here. Hip flexors can get very tight and can cause lower back issues, so it's good to keep them stretched out. Keep breathing. Sucking in the bandhas to help, that's your support network there.
Lovely. Keep breathing here. Lower down to your knees if you're not already on your knee, and we're going to bring ourselves up into the Psoas Stretch. So left hand on the knee. You can bring yourself up lightly away from the deeper stretch, so you may be slightly more towards right angles through the legs or just past. Take a deep breath in, stretch the right arm up, lengthen up and away, drop the shoulder in, and then sink down. So you can feel an increased stretch through that hip flexor and maybe up into the psoas. Keep breathing here. See if you can draw the pelvis forwards. Keep breathing, releasing it off, release the arm down. Fantastic, excellent, very good. So carefully does it then. We're going to bring ourselves over to the other side. So I'm just going to spin forward to demo. Tented hands at the front. Carefully up off that back knee. Look forward and then spring yourself forward. It is attached, so it should come. Lengthen out. Hands can stay on the thighs or the shins. Draw the shoulders away, stretch away. Leveling up all four corners of the feet so you've got even weight between toes and heels. Up to you if you want to go down to the Uttanasana again and fold down to the floor. Carefully does it. Keep breathing. Lovely. Soften those knees, push the floor away, and just roll yourself back up. You can ragdoll yourself up, stacking one vertebra at a time. Excellent. So go on to the other side then and take the same again. So I'm going to turn the other way this time. So we're going to stride back across the mat with our left leg. So it's going to go right out the back door. It's going to be chocked and parallel with the back of the mat, and go to a space that's suitable for you. Think about what's going on here, and you'll know if you're too wide, you'll feel it in here as well at the heads of the femur. So we're going to bend that knee so it's above the ankle at the front. Find where you can be balanced right in the centre. I've helpfully got a nice mandala sort of lotus flower shape in the middle here, so it shows me exactly where the centre is. Draw the energy up the legs, roll the inner thighs out, and settle here. We're going to draw into our Virabhadrasana. Just check this knee isn't sagging in, so just roll it open and line it up with the second toe. Drop the shoulders, bring the arms up, lengthen and stretch away. Shoulders are dropping, again avoiding this tendency to scrunch up the neck. Keep breathing. Using the bandhas and using the breath and the balance between ease and effort. Lovely. Into our Utthita Parsvakonasana. So step one, opening up the side of the body. Keep long through the back. All of these poses are all about lengthening the spine. Keep breathing here, settling. If you know you can go further and you're engaged through that little toe at the back end here, then carefully does it. Place the hand down and stretch up, up and away. And then once you've settled here, keep rolling the inner thighs out. If you know you can go even further, drop the shoulder down, open up and into the bind. Roll that top shoulder open, keep the back nice and long in all poses. Suck the bandhas in, keep breathing. Hard to breathe and talk in this one. Carefully does it. Release off. Carefully swap yourself over. So you can come out if you need to. Swap round. So we're now turned towards the front, up on that back heel. If you want to drop the knee down, that's absolutely fine. Okay, so content the hands or place the hands flat, depends how long your arms are. I'm going to stretch up and away, knee down, knee up, as long as you're rolling the shoulders back, lengthening through the top of the head, stretching that leg away, and that might be stretching from the knee or from the heel. Keep breathing here, lengthening. Find that stretch coming on here. Excellent. So carefully does it then. We're going to lower that knee down if you haven't already. Bring ourselves up into the stretch. So we're going to place our right hand on our right knee. Bring ourselves up. You might find you're in roughly right angles or just past. Leveling up, bandhas in, lengthening through the top of the head. Deep breath and stretch the left arm up. Drop that into position and then carefully going to guide ourselves back through. So you should feel the stretch coming on into the hip flexor, down into the thigh and possibly up into the psoas. Breathing here. Just check this knee doesn't fly past the ankle too much. Caterpillar that foot forward. If you need to go into a deeper stretch, go into a deeper stretch. It is a back bend at the same time, so just be careful of your lower back. Suck in the bandhas to support. Keep breathing. Nice. Lovely. Release that off carefully then. Fantastic. Bring yourself back down to the front. Tuck your toes under, and you're carefully, as I spin around, going to bring that left leg up to the front. Move the nose out of the way. Bring that left leg through. Stretch up and lengthen. You can stay here at the right angle, keeping that even weight between toes and heels, kicking toes and heels into the floor, lengthening through the lower back, stretching away, or breathing out down into your Uttanasana. And when you're ready, softening the knees and curling yourself back up. Lovely. So, fantastic, very nice. Keep breathing here. Just settle in, check in with how you're feeling. Lovely. So this time we're going to take now some wide angles again, but with both hips open this time. So external rotation of both hip joints. Just be careful, okay? Listening to the back, listening to the knees and the hips. Okay, so don't go too wide. You'll find if you're too wide, it'll get quite uncomfortable quite quickly. So we're going to stride the right leg across the mat, and you'll be spinning out to the right. I'll turn to face you so you can see what we're doing. So go as wide as is comfortable, listening to the knee joints, listening to the lower back, listening to the heads of the femur here. Okay, just making sure you're okay. If you're very experienced or accomplished with this pose, you may want to pigeon your toes in a little bit and press all the toes into the floor and get all four corners of the feet nicely engaged. That's what we're moving towards. So carefully does it. We're going to go over and move from side to side. So we're going to take some movement. Okay, so first of all, we're going to go down straight. Then we're going to flick the toes out and move from side to side, sort of snake one way and the other. And then we're going to come up and take some of the sort of more like the sort of squats, horse type or goddess style squats, and then into Prasarita D, which is the catch around the big toe. So up to you. If you don't want to go all the way down to the floor, then stay parallel to the floor or prop yourself on a sofa or a chair that's in front of you. Taking a deep breath in. The arms high will stress the lower back a little bit, so keep the arms low if you don't want to do that. Soften the knees, push the feet into the floor, suck the energy up the legs as you keep reaching forward through the head and the hands and fold down. You can stay here halfway with tented hands and stretch away, evening up the weight between toes and heels, or you can move yourself down to the floor. So walk the hands backwards, bring the elbows together, push the hands into the floor, lengthen, and then breathe out, fold, and push yourself down, carefully guiding yourself down into your Prasarita Padottanasana A. So keep breathing here, and then carefully does it. You can move up to halfway if that's easier. We're going to open up the toes out to the side, and again you may be more comfortable walking the feet in a little bit here because we're going to be moving from side to side. So this is one of the rare times where we don't mind the knee flying past the ankle, as long as there is no pain in the centre of the knee, in that ligament, cruciate ligaments in the middle. So carefully does it. Bring yourself up a little bit onto tented fingers. We're going to move ourselves over to one side and stretch out the other leg. Push the straight leg into the floor, and then we're going to walk round, crab style, grab it over to the other side and stretch out. You can stay a bit longer than I am on each side if you prefer, or you can move more quickly through the poses and stretch away. So you can breathe and settle here, keep the back nice and long, keep the shoulders drawing down the back, keep the weight as even as you can through both feet, although it's not easy. Hello Pip, she's gone to sleep. Keep breathing. Good girl. And finally, and onto a last two, stretching out here. Keep the weight even and moving through. Lovely. So hopefully we've opened up the knees and the hips a little bit here. Moving back to centre. The knees can stay out in that sort of, knees and toes can stay turned out. Bring yourself up more into sort of goddess pose, where you curl the tail under lightly and sit down in the middle. So we're nicely balanced over the pelvis. Sit down as low as you can manage. It's quite hard work.
Up to you. So you can take a deep breath in and stretch up and straighten, and then breathe out, sit down. Breathing in, up, and breathing out, sitting down. It does look a bit like you're laying an egg, but just carefully does it. You'll find maybe that on each movement you can potentially go just a little bit deeper. So it's always wise not to start too deeply in this pose, because otherwise you've got nowhere to go. So carefully does it, listening to what's going on, breathing out. On the effort usually, breathing in and breathing out. A couple more if you can manage it, or rest if you need to. Lovely. Settle yourself out then. Carefully does it. We're going to turn those feet back in. Just going to have a quick drink because my throat's a bit dry. So, carefully does it then. Back into a Prasarita Padottanasana D. Bring it in a little bit if you need to. Take a deep breath in. Stretch up, lengthen. Draw the shoulders down the back. Open up the big pits. Soften the knees. Push the floor away. Lengthen. Breathe out. Halfway is fine if you don't want to go down any further. Keep lengthening out of the lower back. Find the big toes if you're going all the way down. Lengthen. Fan the elbows out. And then breathe out. You can guide yourself down through the legs. Gentle, hi Pip, gentle guiding is allowed. Tugging is not. So if you see the definition in my arms change as I start to pull, you can see the difference. So we're just guiding gently, not actively pulling. Soften the knees, lengthen forward. Release the hands, hands to namaste. Bend the knees, drop the tail, and bring yourself up, hinging the pelvis. Lifting, straightening the legs, and either stepping or jumping the feet back together. Lovely. Excellent. Half an hour in. Well done, everyone. So bring yourself back to the front of your mat. Settling here. We're going to take another forward fold in the lunge this time. So we did the forward fold with our feet parallel. Now we're going to do the forward fold with our feet behind. So carefully does it. We're going to stride back with the right leg. Carefully here to make sure that you are not on a tightrope. You're very much on train tracks. So roughly sort of your pelvis nicely spaced. Stretching up, lengthening, and then sitting down a little bit. You can probably see my back knee is bent a little bit here to try and curl the tail under and feel the opening of the hip flexors here, which can shorten. The more sitting you do, the more these turn off and shorten, so they're going to get stiff, so it's good to stretch them out. And breathing here. Take a deep breath in if you want the back bend, stretching up and lengthening. Lengthen the front of the body. It is a balance, so keep breathing and lengthening, dropping the shoulders in, settling here. Up to you how much effort you want to put into this pose. There's lots of places to go. And breathe in carefully. We're going to lower the arms down the back. Softening off here, just settle, straightening the leg at the front a little bit, and then open up the chest. Find your wide arms if you want to. Take a deep breath in, lengthen up, up and away. Keep the back nice and long. Doesn't matter how low you go, this is about length. So stretching up, up and away. Eventually you'll find your leg is in the way, and then carefully settle yourself. You can tuck the chin in if you want to. It is a balance, so keep pushing down through both feet and sucking in the bandhas. Carefully does it. Keep breathing here. And then soften that back knee. Follow the clasp all the way back up. Release it off. Lovely. Striding that leg forward. Carefully does it. Excellent. So up to you again how much effort you put into these poses. It's your yoga, not mine. And also I've got the disadvantage of not being able to see you anymore. So just work carefully, work intelligently, listen to your body. Carefully does it then. We're going to stride back on the other side, left leg back into that sort of train track position, so we're nicely balanced, bending that back knee and stretching up, and then sitting down a little bit, curling the tail under to feel the stretch opening here in the hip flexors down into the quads of the thigh. Lovely. Take a deep breath in, opening up the arms. If this is you, you want to go into the back bend. You can stretch up and lengthen. So you're going a bit deeper, pushing back and lengthening and stretching up. Keep the back nice and long, listening to what's going on in the back all the while. It's quite strong, it's a bit of a balance. Bandha's working. Carefully does it. Release it off and soften it off a little bit through the legs. Bring the hands back behind you. Roll the shoulders open. Lengthen and lift. And again, carefully does it. Keep long, keep pushing evenly through both feet. Keep lengthening through the spine as you hinge over, sucking the bandhas in. Carefully does it. Tuck the chin in at some point, particularly if you get quite low, and settle yourself. There's a leg in the way, so you can only go so far. Keep drawing the energy up the legs into the bandhas. Keep breathing. Lovely. It is a bit of a balance. Keep nicely balanced. And then carefully, the dismount is as hard as the entrance. So carefully does it. Bring yourself back up and release the arms and stride yourself forward. Now it might be that you need to release off the bum cheeks a little bit there, the hip flexors, the lower back. So feet hip distance or wider. You can soften the knees, make it a little bit soggy. Place the hands on the thighs, drop the chin, drop the shoulder heads, cave the chest and lower yourself down. There's still control, so you're still controlling with the bandhas and pushing the floor away. But you roll yourself down carefully to where you're comfortable, might not be the floor, and then you carefully just reverse, curling under. So curling under one vertebra at a time. Everything at the top is quite heavy. We just slowly, sort of quite Pilates-esque this, rolling and stacking, and bringing yourself back up. The last things to leave will be the shoulders and then the chin. Excellent, very good. Right, we better go down to the floor because time's knocking on now. So up to you, your opportunity here. If you're feeling energized and you love vinyasa, then you can take a vinyasa down to the floor, half vinyasa down to the floor. If you just want a little bit of a rest now, you can sit down. So carefully does it. Move yourself down to the floor the safest way for your back possible. If you want to take a little squat or a curtsy, then you can sit yourself back down. So carefully does it then. When you're ready, we'll all meet in Dandasana, pulling the fleshy bits of the bum out of the way and sitting up nice and tall. Carefully does it into our Janu Shirshasana. So we're going to bend the right leg, bring the sole of the foot inside the left leg. Doesn't really matter where it goes, as long as it's not pressing directly on the knee joint, as the knee doesn't like to go sideways. So listening to the knee here, listen to the hip, find where you can be comfortable. You're going to draw the energy up the left leg. We've done this one quite a lot recently. We're going to stretch away through the right leg. Bandha's working, nice and tall, turning slightly to the left and keeping that engagement through the legs, the push-pull, and we're going to stretch over. And it's keeping in mind that the spine stays nice and long. It's not about getting to the toes, it's not about getting the nose to the knee, it's about lengthening out and away. And eventually, yes, things start to happen where you start to go down further, but we're not forcing that. This is a voyage of discovery, and we practice and we just make small incremental improvements. Keep breathing. This is where regular practice can pay dividends. So stretching away, lengthening, taking account of your particular issues in your back and your hips, breathing in, bringing yourself back up. We're going to take it into a Crunchasana. Lots of variations here, crane pose. So you can just bend this front leg, keeping listening to what happens in the knee, because sometimes things can change in this bent leg as you move this other leg up. So carefully does it. You can just clasp behind the knee, roll the shoulders back and down, push the bottom into the floor and lengthen against the floor and stretch up and away. Level 1, Crunchasana. Level 2, you might float the leg off the floor. Keep dropping the right knee and stretching the leg away. Level 3, you might start to walk up the leg and bring yourself up into the higher pose. Up to you. Find the level where you can visit, sit for a moment with your breath, with the breath, note, not breathing, and then release it off. carefully release that off. Up to you if you want to pop in a quick half Navasana here, so an Ardha Navasana. You can bring the leg up and stretch away. Try not to cave the lower back, so you're keeping your boat up and not sinking, and stretching away. Lengthen, release the leg off, hug the knees into the chest if you need to, drop the chin, roll back a little bit onto the flat little platform behind the coccyx, and then release it off. Bring the legs back out in front. Pull the fleshy bits out again. They tend to creep back in, and then we're going to bring ourselves into Janu Shirshasana on the other side. So bending the left leg, bring the sole of the foot onto the side of the right leg, and again it can be against the calf and against the thigh or tucked up into the perineum, your call. Stretching away here, listening to the knee, listening to the hips, supporting here if you need to, if you don't like the pull of gravity. Draw the energy up the right leg into the body, stretch up as you turn towards the right foot. Keep breathing here, stretching up and away. Use that energy that's surging through the legs back and forth, and bring yourself over. This is about lengthening through the top of the head, not about getting to the toes or nose to knee. Eventually we start to close the gap, but we just start to work carefully on stretching the things that need stretching. We all tend to suffer from those tight hamstrings, and if we're doing more sitting at the moment, I'm afraid that's not going to help them. So keep breathing. Settle where you can in this pose. And then carefully bring yourself back up into that Kronchasana, or variations on. So listening to this knee over here again, just make sure you're comfortable. I'm going to bend that straight leg, so the right leg is now bending towards you, catching behind the knee, sit up and open the chest and lengthen. So you drop the shoulders down the back, the heart pops through. Think Barbara Windsor. Keep breathing. Carefully, if you want to lift the leg off and explore how that feels, activating the psoas a little bit, keep breathing. And then up to you, potentially, if you want to go into a fuller pose, keep the back from, try to keep the lower back from caving. So we've really got to keep those bandhas working hard here as you lift the leg into position. It doesn't have to be a mega pose, it doesn't have to be sort of full can or the full Darcy bustle. Release it off, carefully does it. Excellent. So up to you if you want to slip in here your little Navasana, so you can sit up nice and tall, draw the energy up both legs as you lengthen and lift. It doesn't have to be a full straight leg, it can just be a bent leg, stretching away, bring the shin parallel with the floor, or stretch the leg up high and keep lengthening and lifting high here, drawing the energy up and down the leg, and carefully release it off. Release that leg and bring it out in front. Soft forward fold here. Up to you. You can have soft knees, soft ankles, or you can turn it into a more active Paschimottanasana if you prefer, your call. And just stretch out. Really, the aim here is just to bring those hips back into their normal alignment and stretch away. Softly does it. You have the legs wider for that if you prefer. Carefully does it then. We're going to go down to the floor now. So we're going to lie down and bring the soles. If you're getting a bit chillier now because you're down on the floor and there are a few drafts, just pop something on so you don't cool down too quickly. Release yourself down to the floor with the soles of the feet together. Entirely up to you how close the feet are to the body. So lifting the head, stretching up through the top of the head and settling. Here you can have the feet a bit further away, or you can just gradually bring those legs in a little bit closer. The closer the feet go, the larger there tends to be an arch, a lordosis in the lower back. So just work carefully and find where you can settle in this pose. And just let the knees drop down to the floor. If there's any stiffness or tightness or feedback in the hip here, just be very careful. You may want to stick something underneath your thighs and just create a little bit of lift. Might be a couple of cushions, things like that, and settle. Take a moment here. There is an option if you prefer. Careful with neck and shoulder issues here, and just be careful against an overarch of the lower back. Bring the hands up over the top of the head. Sorry, Pip. Oh, sorry. And settle. She's right in the way there. Keep breathing. Band is still working here. Still using the Ujjayi breath if that's your preference. and then carefully does it. Release the arms down to the side. You can help the knees back together and hug the knees in one at a time and then both together. So just to release off, you can have the other leg bent or the other leg straight like we did at the start. Swap them over and release them off. Take your time to make sure the knees, the hips and the lower back get their stretch, and then carefully going to bring ourselves into a bridge so we can start to lift up and lengthen. So we're going to bring our feet relatively close to the body. So if you know that you're good at bridge and you find it a really pleasing pose, there is the option to pull the fleshy bits out to the side and get the heels really close to the body. If that's not you, then just make sure you're listening to what's going on in the knees and here into the quads, so the big muscles at the front of the thigh, and move those feet away a little bit. So you've got to get enough traction through the feet to be able to lift the pelvis off the floor. So find where you think you can be comfortable. Carefully roll off slightly and tuck one shoulder and arm underneath. Roll off the other side and tuck the arm and shoulder underneath. Place the hands flat on the floor. There is the option eventually to bring the hands together. And carefully you're going to push through the hands and the arms. Lift the head lightly to stretch, but keep that head super straight. There's no turning the head from side to side in these poses. There's a bit of pressure through the spine here. Keep breathing. And keep the thighs parallel and keep lifting and lengthening. See if you can unclench the buttocks. Not always easy. There is an option, if you're very comfortable, to bring the arms up above the head, and there is also the option to prop yourself. If you've got something you can prop underneath your pelvis, maybe above the bony bit of the sacroiliac joint, that bony bit at the back of the pelvis, and then settle if you can. Keep breathing here, and we're lengthening the pelvis towards the knees and then lengthening out of the top of the head. So you feel this sort of a pushing away and a pulling in and a lengthening away. It's quite a big expansive pose. Keep breathing here. Don't go too high potentially here if you're finding that you're getting a bit short of breath, or you're finding it a bit claustrophobic, or you know that you don't want to get your heart too high above your head. Keep breathing here. Carefully does it. Breathing out and lowering down. Lovely. Hug the knees into the chest one at a time or both together. Lovely. So we've got about 5 minutes to go, so we're going to bring ourselves carefully towards our Shavasana now. So up to you. We can take our Yoga Mudrasana, or you can just prepare yourself to go into your Shavasana. So make sure you're going to be warm and comfortable. If you're coming into Yoga Mudrasana, bring yourself into a comfortable cross-legged position, any cross-legged position, or even with the legs wide with a cushion underneath your coccyx if that suits you. Sweep the arms forward and then sweep them round behind you. Find your clasp, roll each shoulder open and drop the clasp down, lengthen the front and the back of the body. Breathe in and breathe out, folding over, tucking the chin in as you go, lengthening the spine and breathing out. Bandhas are lightly engaged here as we just seal the practice. So keep breathing. You're settling through the sit bones as well as through the legs and lengthening out of the top of the head. Taking your deep Ujjayi breaths here. Lovely. And then carefully does it. You can bring yourself out, following your clasp back up. So if you haven't already settled into Shavasana, bring yourself into Shavasana. We've done quite a lot of work on the hips here to free up the lower back. So it's up to you. You might find that lying completely flat in the standard Shavasana tonight might be pulling on the lower back or the mid back a little bit. So up to you. If it's more comfortable for you to have your legs bent, that is fine. And if it's more comfortable maybe for you to be on your right hand side, unless you're heavily pregnant, so in the 3rd trimester, or slightly before, you'd want to preferably lie on your left side. But find a side that suits you, and you can lie on your side if that's more comfortable. Make sure you're warm and comfortable, and you're going to stretch the arms away and settle. So find where you can be comfortable in it, as expansive or as settled a pose as you can. Changing the orientation now and bringing ourselves down to the earth. Turning your attention to your body.
settling each part into the floor. Noticing each part becoming heavier. Sending the breath to any areas of tension that are still lingering. And then turning your attention to your breath. So as the body then actively submits to gravity, and we're tuning back into the breath, watching the breath coming in and going out, without force or without tension, and just focusing very much on extending the out-breath longer, like we did at the start of the class. Being with yourself, your body and your breath. If you find your mind is becoming distracted, just notice, grab the string of the kite and pull it back towards the breath. Do this as many times as you need to. Shavasana is a conscious relaxation. It's different to Yoga Nidra. So just keep yourself focused where you can. And just your thought for the day. Is there a school where Perseverance teaches classes? I would like to meet him face to face and see what he looks like. I've heard so much about him. It's not that I want his feedback. I'm sure he would tell me to keep working, and I already know that. And it's not just me either. Off the bat, I can name at least 3 friends who are as curious as I am. One is a scholar, one is a writer, and the third is a young parent. I would write Perseverance a letter inviting him to come here and teach at our local school, but no one around here knows where he lives or how to find him. I read somewhere that they were trying to hire him to co-host a TV show on the creative process, but he would have none of it. He says he is shy in front of cameras. The truth is, he turns down all offers which distract him from his work. Perseverance. Bring the awareness back into your body and back into your breath. And gently make some nice sounds to bring you back into the room. Thank you for my lovely wind chime from France. Merci Sylvie. And we're just going to settle. Turn the attention back into the fingers and the toes. Move them a little bit to reawaken the limbs. And then if it's comfortable, stretch your arms above your body, taking a deep breath in. Into the long dog stretch. Maybe force or catch a yawn. And then very gently, one at a time or both together, you can bring your knees into your chest to release your back from lying on the floor. Move around a little bit if it's comfortable with your knees in, one at a time or both together, and then carefully bring yourself either onto your right hand side to your knees and up to seated, or then carefully into a comfortable seated position. So drawing to a close now so that we've got time to go and appreciate our colleagues in the NHS. So joining in with that, with a clap for your carers at 8 o'clock if you feel you're able to. Moving to the front of the house, windows, doors, etc. Maintaining your social distancing. So back online tomorrow at midday for another hour. These are obviously available on the Facebook feed,
and they also transfer to YouTube, and I send them out to my regulars with a link. So thank you very much, everyone. Take a deep breath in, sweep your arms up, hands together, and namaste. Thank you, and see you soon. Bye-bye.